Thank you for joining the Sharpest College Football Podcast. This is our Week 2 review. I am BuckMetrics, joined as always by Robert Martin. Robert, an interesting Week 2, kind of shook out as often happens when there's not that many, quote, big games. A lot of kind of like next level upsets and good games to watch. It seemed like the day got better as it went on.
Yeah, I think so. It was similar in some ways to Week 1 in the fact that there was a couple good games at noon. Again, nothing quite to the level of Texas, Ohio State. But the afternoon was just, man, what are we doing here, man? What was the best afternoon game? What even was? Oh, technically Florida, USF. We'll get to that. We're definitely talking about that game. And then the night game, obviously Oklahoma, Michigan, which was a really good game. But then the night stuff was some good stuff there the night too. Yeah, a bit of a mixed bag. It felt, and I'm not sure if this is actually correct or not, but it felt like more teams played FCS teams this week than last week.
Yeah, it did.
I'm not sure if that's actually correct, but it feels like it's correct, which is, in this case, I think that's more than fair. Just say a lot of, hey, let's go, Ohio State beat up Grambling 70-0. Cool, right? That was necessary. So people beat up MAC schools. Oregon beat up MAC school too. Basically,
you're being generous, but yeah,
very generous. Yeah, MAC school would have put up a better fight, but no, but again, this week is actually this. We got to talk about what happened this week, but yeah, this upcoming week there's some good stuff this week, and then next week is actually a truly elite week. So we're just getting warmed up for the season.
You'll also notice we have a new logo. Thank you somewhat to Gemini AI, who also clearly, despite about an hour back and forth, does not understand the concept of transparency. So
I can fix that.
Little border. Okay. Are you saying you're better than AI? I've set the bar really high here with AI on this podcast.
Yeah, I know. I could definitely add transparency. I love the fact that it's just like a giant white box, and then the logo inside looks good, but the giant white box inside does not look good. So I'll work on the transparency.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that. If you are new, this is our glossary. Do a screen grab of this and refer to it so you have some clues to what we are talking about throughout the podcast. And if you are returning, you are, by nature, as always, brilliant. With that, we will get to our Week 2 takeaways. For some reason, I wanted to put my takeaways in the form of a question. I consult now, and one of the reasons was because when I worked for evil big companies, you had that stupid training you had to do with some jackass who you didn't want to hear, and they would say, I want to make this interactive. You know what, Robert? I'm going to make my takeaways interactive in the form of a question. So,
okay.
My first takeaway here. Is Byron Brown better than DJ Lagway? Byron Brown with a 112 apex against a alleged SEC defense, fair to say. DJ Lagway with a 73 apex against an American defense that you might recall went from really bad to Todd Orlando had them to almost average American Conference. They're clearly better this year again. Weird for me to see a Todd Orlando defense doing this. I guess the lesson is Clay Helton is always the problem. We will not talk about Clay Helton and USC facing USC this week, but I'm curious. I think I'm in the category of yes here in terms of Byron Brown better than DJ Lagway. Maybe we have to be specific and say at this point.
So this is a really fascinating question on this, because you could kind of look at this two ways. You could say, wow, USF's defense is so good. They shut down Boise last week, which was a playoff team, and Florida, who actually beat, I think, some playoff teams last year. They beat
LSU.
Did they beat a playoff team last year?
I think they kind of knocked people out of playoffs.
Yeah, okay. They're close-ish to a playoff team. Not like a playoff team, but a relatively... So basically...
Playoff adjacent.
Yeah, playoff adjacent. There you go. A playoff team and a playoff adjacent team. That's not bad for 2 weeks of football, right? Man, what do you guys have 3 wins last year? So again, stratospheric improvement levels there. So one takeaway you could say is, wow, their defense is really good. They completely shut down Boise and Florida. The other takeaway is Boise was always going to regress anyway, and hey, maybe Florida's offense isn't good. So I don't know what the correct takeaway for that is. I will say that Florida looked rough out there. Again, this is supposed to be an SEC team. This is an American team. The spread was 17.5. Why Like this should. There were so many drives that ended in field goals that like this should be a touchdown. This should be a touchdown. This should be like touchdown, game over. This should be like, okay, we're not kicking a field goal here. We're going for a touchdown. But it wasn't even, oh, okay, they were like, they went to the 20 and they kicked a field goal. They're like, oh, we're going to kick a field from like the 30 or the 40. It's like they couldn't even get further into that red zone. And the thing is, if you remember, I said in our podcast last week, I said this spread doesn't exist. It's not a real spread. I said this game is either going to be close, and I said Florida should win. Yeah, the binomial.
Wide bell curve.
Yeah, kind of like inverse bell curve, right? It's like the middle part doesn't exist.
The barbells, as we call it.
The barbells. It's like Florida's either going to win by 28, or it's going to be like basically even. And I said Florida win by a touchdown. That apparently was too optimistic. Somehow, I thought the bull case was USF keeps it within a score, not they win. But wow, yeah, that was. This is. The thing is, though, is we were quick to fade Boise in our preseason. A little obviously higher by Florida. You have to be because they are an SEC team, and Lagway was one of the more hyped prospects this year. But I was still relatively out on them. So at this point, I'm not like, oh, okay, the USF is so good. I feel like now USF is too overhyped. Like now, it's USF. People in this week of now, I've heard many people say they're in the driver's seat for the Group of 5 playoff. I'm like, no, what are we doing? Stop. Just stop. What are we doing here? They beat an overhyped Boise team and probably an overhyped Florida team. Like, they still have to get out of the American. That's not the easiest thing.
Yeah, no, the American is tough. I will say that they control their destiny.
Oh, of course.
Not to spoil the Week 3 preview, but I think it's a different kind of ball game this upcoming week. But yeah, they got on the radar first, which, because everybody who makes decisions and votes and polls is a moron, is pretty darn big.
Yeah, and we'll have to see how that goes. But we thought Boise would. Maybe let me clarify. We, as in the people of this podcast, thought Boise was suspect. The media didn't, and some of us, and you to some extent as well, thought Florida was suspect as well. The media didn't, and because like Florida was 13th, they probably shouldn't have been 13th, but it's arguable as to who you would have put ahead of them anyways. But whatever. We were out on those two teams, and they beat two teams that we thought were overrated. So what does that make USF? Maybe a good team, but probably, I think by definition they have to be overhyped. There's no way you could say they're appropriately hyped because they beat two overhyped teams, and now they're like insanely hyped. I think there's going to be coming back down to earth moment here, but I think the bigger story here is just Florida. I think we were right to be out on Boise 100%. And I think we were skeptical of Florida, and I think this is now okay. Yeah, Florida came out, destroyed Long Island University. Great. You lost to USF. And you've got LSU next week, and then I think Miami, and then a bye week, and then Texas. This was the easy one. This was the warm-up for LSU next week. Now, okay, fine, whatever. You're going to say, look ahead spot, blah, 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 whatever, fine. This is still concerning. And I think we're looking at the return of fired Billy Napier here.
Capital F fired.
Capital F fired, because that was the joke. And if people remember from last year, we talked about, because I can't remember what specifically happened, but I thought there was like a rumor on Twitter that Billy Napier had been fired. I think it was
they had made the decision, but they just weren't going to announce it yet.
Yeah, there's a leak from Florida that it was announced that they were going to fire him, and a decision had been made, but it hadn't been announced yet. But then somehow it wasn't announced, and then he just kept winning games, and then, okay, I guess we're just going to put this off. But, now I think fired Billy Napier is going to return. Now, that being said, though, 1,000% bet Florida against LSU this week. But after that, though, don't bet Florida. This is going to get a lot worse. But we'll talk more about that later. But, yeah, no. I think this is personally, this is more of a stain on Florida than, oh man, USF's so good. I think that's what this is.
Yeah, also, I don't know, this didn't really make the storyline. Apparently, UFO ran onto the field here towards the end of the game. I think we're going to talk about that later in this episode. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Don't want to spoil that. Just, can't imagine everybody missed a UFO there. All right. My second takeaway in the form of a question. Has Arch or Bryce Underwood proven anything to date? I'm going to say no, uncontroversially. Nice numbers until you play a real team, and then the numbers aren't so nice. This is not a controversial take at all. Let me put it this way. If I'm going to rank the resumes so far of these two and two others from our beloved backyards, I'm actually going to go Jaden Mayava 1, Dante Moore 2, then take your pick of these two guys, 3 and 4. Is that fair?
That's fair. I think on just strength of schedule, I would put Dante Moore ahead of Mayava, just on strength of schedule, though. Very arguable either way on that, because technically they did beat a Big 12 team, and it was Missouri State and Georgia Southern. That's it.
I'm going by career.
Oh, sure, yeah. Oh, fine. Okay, career, 100%. Yeah, career, yeah.
Yes.
But
Jaden Mayava
right.
was able to finish 2 years, and Mr. Moore has yet to finish one.
That's fair. Okay, sorry. I thought if you meant just the season, yeah. But if you meant career, then yeah, sure. But no, this is 100% correct. And you throw Julian Sayin in there. Okay, yeah, they crushed Grambling. Wow, that was good job there. That was good job. It's the wrong colored G logo for some reason. I don't even know. How is that even legal, by the way? I'm really confused by that, but whatever. No, Bryce Underwood here, one of the most hyped prospects here. And okay, yes, could he still be good? Fine, but this is his freshman season. 1 touchdown pass in 2 games. Now, okay, fine. One of those is probably one of the best defenses in all of college football. The other one was New Mexico. I'm going to make a pretty fair case. Manning is better than Underwood, right? Okay, yeah. When he got a passing touchdown against Ohio State, Underwood didn't against Oklahoma. And okay, yeah, he crushed San Jose State, and he had 4 passing touchdowns. But that's better than okay, yeah, San Jose State better than New Mexico, yeah, but Underwood did worse against New Mexico than he did against San Jose State. Very arguable that Manning is better, but that's still not. I'm like, oh wow, you threw for 4 passing touchdowns against San Jose State. Also, fun fact, they didn't cover the spread, so that matters too. But no, I think they're both, and I throw Julian Sayin in there as well, but I think they're both massively overvalued. I think the SEC, I don't think people quite realize just how open it is. I think people are massively overhyped on LSU. And I think for some reason we're just completely ignoring what LSU did this week, which was nothing against Louisiana Tech. And the fact that their best win is against a team and we'll talk about Clemson in a second there, but that's their best win and that's suspect now. I don't think LSU has it. And I don't think Texas has it either. And Bama definitely doesn't have it. We could talk about Auburn. There's only so much, you start getting into Oklahoma, you start getting into Texas A&M. Those are actually good teams. I think those teams are massively undervalued in the markets right now on that.
Yeah. And this is not a high bar I'm setting either.
No.
How about wins against Power 4 teams as a starter? This page 0, Mr. Moore 2, Mr. Mayava, I think has now, not now, last season he had 3. Yeah, I hate how this guy's going to be awesome becomes, well, he's going to be okay, give him time. Okay, you can literally say that about anybody. I'm sure that going into every season, Kent State tells themselves, this is the season, okay? So you've basically got the same mantra as Kent State here, guys. Congratulations on that.
I think just one quick point on that. I think maybe just in the future, we really need to be out on these freshman starters. I think we need to, this isn't...
Prove it. I'm open-minded, right? But open-minded both ways. Could be anything. Mm-hmm. I'll put it this way. If Bryce Underwood, if he completed 62% at 8 yards per attempt, believe me, I'd spend probably about 45 minutes on him in part 2 when I'm previewing week 3 when we have the Apex ratings there. I would just be going nuts. But I guess that's my frustration is the narrative always seems predetermined by the high school rankings and these dopes that don't really watch football games. They just check box scores and post on social media. All right. Next question, or a takeaway in the form of a question. How does UCLA's offense stack up, Robert? Just using a very unscientific method here. Looks like they're somewhere in between a probably bottom half Conference USA team. So they're above that, but they're not quite at the level of an Idaho State team, which I think hasn't made the FCS playoffs in a mere 40 years. So congratulations on that. Is that a fair take?
Yeah, you're better than a Conference USA team, so there's that. But not as good as an FCS team, so that's disappointing. Again, I don't know. This is going really badly for UCLA. And the thing is, we called this. We were like, hey, this is going to go poorly. It's very clear they massively overpaid for Nico whatever. They overpaid for Nico, and we said this. They don't have the pieces. They just massively overpaid for a guy to get a name, and Tennessee was probably smart to get rid of him. And in 2 weeks, they're 0-2. I believe they have their season win total under. Probably looking pretty good right now, considering the fact that they lost to a Mountain West team, and they haven't even played a Big Ten team yet. So it's not good. But yeah, I think if you're UCLA, I think you're cheap, so you're probably gonna try to keep your coach for a couple more years. But we're gonna get to a point where this goes pretty poorly real fast.
And true to form, cheap is the operative word here. They hired the head coach on the cheap. No surprise, the offensive coordinator is the first time, like I said in the preview, it's a first-time offensive coordinator. He was the QB coach and co-OC under a real offensive coordinator, but he doesn't have the Cignetti influence. He doesn't have Elijah Surratt, and it's not going well. And UCLA, again, cheaply, their defensive coordinator, this is his first time, second season, but he'd never been a DC before being elevated there by Deshaun Foster. And I actually get frustrated by this. Not that I really want UCLA to win, but I have UCLA friends, and they don't even give a crap anymore. It's not even fun. They just say, I don't care. It's not even worth it. Good job. We're going to talk about basically NIL and football and basketball and how that all shakes out. But UCLA, just, man alive, they're just like trying to prove the way that not to do it. In a money conference nonetheless, too. My gosh. More than somewhat related, is Deshaun Foster still a better hire than Mike Elko? I had forgotten, but was delighted to remember that when Stuart Mandel did this, I failed to remember that he actually put these adjacent to each other. You had the hire of UCLA hiring Deshaun Foster, got a grade of B, and right below that was Texas A&M, a B- for hiring Mike Elko. I want to just read aloud for those who are not watching him, just listening as they drive or exercise or do the dishes or whatever. Foster makes sense for UCLA because, quote, the former Bruins star running back will galvanize UCLA fans. So I found this little snippet of a hard copy newspaper article that the LA Times ran about how UCLA's meager attendance figures are like goosed by about 20 to 30%. Part of that was this game against Utah. I circle this because you might notice that this attendance right here is lower than any attendance that was announced in Chip Kelly's last season. So I know this is going to shock you, Robert. Once again, noted Big Ten expert Stuart Mandel was wrong.
I want to point out something you didn't read there because you read one sentence too late because you said they talked with more experienced candidates like Minnesota's PJ Fleck, but Foster makes more sense for this specific job. That's also insane sentence there. No, here's the thing, and you can say there are so many metrics in which you could say that clearly Mike Elko was a far better hire. One, we liked Mike Elko. We were on them last year. We liked them. We didn't like UCLA hire last year. But one of the bigger things is the fact that the SEC is a lot harder, guys. And he's doing far better in that. And the Big Ten, yes, okay, overall, it's a tougher conference. But there's there's more bottom feeders. Like, it's a lot more harder to scrape out more wins in the SEC than it is to scrape out a few wins in the Big Ten. And John Foster has failed at that. And again, he's not even doing it against good teams. He's not even doing it against bad teams. Like, he's losing against Utah, a Big 12 team, and a Mountain West team. Like, you should have at minimum, okay, yeah, Utah could win the Big 12. Okay. But, like, UNLV, I don't know, maybe they could win the Mountain West, but that's still iffy. You should still be able to beat a team that's 3 tiers lower than you.
But I want to point out, too, it's not just like UNLV, good UNLV. This is UNLV in a complete rebuild. They lost literally everybody. They have nothing that no connective tissue at all to last year's team. This is a completely new roster. Deshaun Foster is in year 2, so he has a sequencing advantage there. And let's not forget, this is like a guy that basically their starting quarterback at UNLV is a guy that got run off of an ACC. So, the quarterback play, I don't know, by market forces alone, supposedly there's 3 or 4 levels different, right?
Yeah. And you got a SEC quarterback, a playoff SEC quarterback, too, no less. This shouldn't be happening, but yet it is. It's great.
Good job, guys. All right, next question. Did North Carolina actually fix anything? All right, they won, They did not lose by 34 points or whatever it was. They won by 17. My answer, predictably, is no. Because they had by my metrics, they had a 63% post-game win probability against Charlotte. Against Charlotte, who is in a complete rebuild, was a disaster last year. Against Charlotte, who actually lost by a bigger margin just 1 week ago to an also rebuilding App State team. Yeah, I clearly this time last week, the whole parlor game of this sport was just to poop on Bill Belichick's head. And I think to some regard it was like, okay, they stopped the bleeding. I don't think they stopped the bleeding, Robert.
No, and I think this is... I didn't touch this game. I fully expected them to win and cover the spread, and they did. But looking kind of more under the hood here, yeah, this wasn't that impressive, right? For some reason, this game was at Charlotte. I'm not sure why, but App State was also at Charlotte, and they won by a bigger margin. And Charlotte looked bad in both games. 3 points this one, and to be fair, almost 3 points in against App State, except for a touchdown and a 2-point conversion there. In last week against App State. But again, App State had like multiple quarters. After the first quarter, they scored a touchdown each quarter. UNC scored a touchdown in the first, a touchdown in the second, and that was it. They scored a field goal after that. So what were they, like resting Gio Lopez, getting ready for next week? Yes. This is, again, 4.5 yards a carry against an American team, right? Like
a bottom-tier American team.
Yeah, a bottom-tier American team. Maybe the bottom-tier American team. 6.2 yards per pass against an American team. Only slightly more than theirs against you, which shows how horrible your passing defense is. You stop them from running the ball. Okay. Caught you at 22 rushing attempts for 28 yards. Wow, that's so rough. But again, like you're supposed to do that to an American team. But
yeah,
what happens when you play another good ACC team? I'm concerned now. Now there might be... I thought maybe we might have hit that. Might have been like, oh, okay, maybe TCU was really good, and maybe North Carolina will pick. But yeah, no, maybe not. This might get worse. We're not at bottom yet. We're gonna get an opportunity to bet like North Carolina. Like they're gonna be like 3.5-point favorites against someone they should be clearly underdogs to. And we could bet like the plus 3.5, the money line, the minus 6.5, the minus 10.5. Like we're gonna just be do all of it.
Yeah, I'm looking up here. Yeah, I'm not wrong here. I also wanted to just point out that it's not like this App State team, which had a better performance against Charlotte than the Tar Heels, is any good, as they literally just last week won by a mere one score against a school named Lindenwood, of whom I'd never heard until last week. Yeah, still, I guess maybe if there's any takeaway here, it's North Carolina went from stinking out loud to sneaky stinky in game 2. And my gosh, Robert, another did something actually get fixed, this time about Clemson. I'm more emphatically saying no here. Because Charlotte at least has Tim Albin. There might be like some reason to somewhat believe. Yeah, there's no reason to believe in the Goose Crowder, Jared Parker show here at Troy. And you trailed by 16 points. You had a 64% win probability post-game against Troy. Look, I'm all for forgiving 1 or 2 bad games a year. Everybody does it except for the most elite teams, like 2020 Alabama, okay? You don't skate against a bad Sun Belt team. And I love the Sun Belt, but Troy is not a part of the Sun Belt to love. They got it somewhat together in the second half, although they only outgained them in total by 15 yards for the whole game. Clemson they've got, just to start with, I can't see them win the ACC. Maybe that's just not even controversial now, but this team could lose 5 games, right?
So, a couple points of this. Do you know what the spread in this game was?
No, what was it?
32.5.
Okay. Didn't even get there, right?
They didn't score 32.
Yes.
Let alone cover 32.5. This was insane. Like, at one point, I think Troy, in live betting, I think Troy was actually favored in this game, which is insane. Now, obviously, it didn't happen. Gosh. But when you're staring down 16-0, like, the books were like, is Clemson going to lose this game? And okay, they won by 11 by scoring 17 points in the third. But what is happening? Troy is not a good Sun Belt team. They are a bad Sun Belt team. If Clemson had come out, like we were suspect of Clemson going into the season, and then we were suspect of them after the LSU win. If they had come out and beaten Troy 32, if they had gone out and covered the 32.5, I would still be skeptical of this Clemson team. I feel like I still am not buying this Clemson. I'm really not buying this Clemson team now. This is, oh my God, this might be actually even worse than we thought. And the thing is, Troy put up 7.2 yards per pass, 2.4. Troy scored 16 points against them. LSU scored 17. What does that say about LSU?
Yeah.
Okay, LSU's defense is better than Troy's. Okay, their offense is only 1 point better than Troy's offense.
Troy held Clemson to under 4 yards a rush.
Yeah.
That's sick.
And yes.
Not sick, the kids say sick, cool. It's like sick, okay, you need to go to bed and take aspirin. Yes.
No, what does this say about LSU? Right now, people this week apparently, and this is how, you know how like sometimes in the stock market, there's like that famous quote from, I think it was like a Rockefeller that said, I knew that the market was in a massive overinflated bubble when my shoe shine boy was giving me stock tips. It's like the bubble indicator I look at is that the most bet to win the national championship game is LSU. They have the most bets of anybody and most money of anybody. And this week they're 9.5 points favored against Florida. I don't know. Do you think Troy is better than Florida? This is overinflated expectations. And also, by the way, LSU, they beat Louisiana Tech, I think, what was it, 28-0 or something?
No,
something anemic.
I think it was like 20-7.
Yeah, like not a particularly great score for them either. And I think people are so quick to say, oh man, clearly LSU and Clemson have to be the best two teams in the league, two of the best top in the league. But they look very bad against each other. And then the week after, against inferior opponents, they also look pretty bad. Guys, like, just add 2 and 2 together and be like, these two teams are not good. They are not good. They actually might be worse than last year at this point. Like, I actually think that you can actually theoretically explain away a little bit about Florida's loss to USF by saying they were looking ahead to the LSU game. That's actually a somewhat defensible theory. It's a dumb theory, but you could say that. And I've bet Florida now twice. I've doubled up. Like, I'm going Florida plus 9.5 against LSU. I don't think Florida is good, but I think LSU is worse. So this is not, oh man, Florida's got it. But like, honestly, this is like prime Florida just dismantles LSU this weekend. That's what this is this weekend, I think. Because there's no way this LSU team should be there's no way it should be this value. There's no way. Because the best team, they beat a Sun Belt team, a bad Sun Belt team, by 11. And then they beat a Conference USA team by 13. This is laughable. These two teams are not good. Clemson is not good. LSU is not good. Guys, just put basic math here. Something doesn't add up. These shouldn't be the number 3 team and the number 12 team. It doesn't make sense.
So if I was just to argue that maybe Clemson was looking ahead to Troy when they played LSU, you're not going to buy that?
I will not buy that one, no.
Okay.
I don't think it was
fair.
They're like, you know what? We'd love to beat LSU, but man, we've got to take down Troy. We got to get ready for Troy next week. We've got to make sure we score as many points when we're 32.5 point favorites.
I floated the trial balloon, and I'm bringing it back into the hangar. All right. You have, I believe, one takeaway this week.
Yeah. What the heck is this? What? Is Austin Peay, like, amazing? Like, they kicked Middle Tennessee's ass last week. Mm-hmm. And then they, like, only lose by 3 scores to Georgia? That's insane. Now, okay, guys, clearly Austin Peay is not good. But this is a warning indicator for Georgia. Be like, hey, guys, maybe Georgia isn't that good. Like, 4.8 yards a carry against an FCS school, 6.4 yards a pass against an FCS school. And see, the thing is, I think a lot of people are waving away this because they're like, oh, Georgia dismantled Marshall. Marshall is really bad. They're really bad. They lost to, who'd Marshall lose to this week?
Oh, we'll get to that in part 2. Or no, we'll get to that later in this one.
Okay.
Stay tuned.
Well, stay tuned. But it wasn't a good team.
Yeah.
Marshall is really bad. And I think Georgia crushing Marshall is like, because people are like, oh, they beat the defending Sun Belt champions. That's not how this works. That's not how this works, guys. Like, this is the thing. Georgia might not actually be good either. And this is another reason why, honestly, Oklahoma to win the SEC, Texas A&M to win the SEC, The top of the SEC is not there this year. LSU doesn't have it. Texas doesn't have it. What do you feel confident in Auburn having it? No. Like, it's. I think you dig deep into Oklahoma physically dismantled that Michigan team. They did. Like, Michigan has a really good defense. They were able to score against that defense. They looked among the better teams that I've seen against that defense. They look better than Ohio State did last year against that defense. And okay, yeah, Michigan, they did pretty good shutting down Michigan's defense too. Like, they've completely frustrated Bryce Underwood there. What are they going to do to Archie Manning in a couple weeks? What are you going to do? If they shut him down? They're going to be able to shut down Manning in Red River in just a few weeks from now. So this is the thing. Oklahoma might actually be pretty legit here. I'm buying into Oklahoma and also Texas A&M. Like, you know what? Of all the coaches, I don't trust this Georgia team. I don't trust this Alabama team. I definitely don't trust this Auburn team. Definitely not this LSU team. I like Mike Elko. I trust Mike Elko. I hate Texas A&M. But I think it's a better bet than this Georgia team that beat an FCS team by 3 scores. I think it's a better bet than that.
Yeah, a few responses here. First of all, you did not mention that despite playing an FCS team, Georgia managed to find 3 different guys to lose yardage running the ball. Great work. Our SEC preview guest, Graham Coffey, actually tweeted during this game, "This is really scary," and especially against an FCS team when this is tweeted out. He said, I want to quote, I'm not going to get it exact, but he basically said, "Nobody on this offensive line is beyond questioning at this point." Not really. Look, if you're doing that against Ohio State, that's one thing. Against Austin Peay, that's concerning. The other thing is just a little bit of props here for this has got to be. This is kind of like the. Let me grab my laser pointer here. This thing rivals the Tulane Way for just a bitchin' logo here. Oh, you've got like the Monopoly Man plus some kind of evil character from the comic books to get just the top hat look. That's as good as it gets.
Could Austin Peay actually win FCS this year? They beat an FBS team, and then they were competitive against one of the top FBS teams. Like, they might actually be sneakily good, but at the same point, that means that the teams they played against were also bad. Like, is Austin Peay good? No, Middle Tennessee got clobbered again by Wisconsin, but although it was randomly close for some reason. But no, I'd be very concerned about Georgia. This is, if you're a Georgia fan, or if you have a Georgia ticket, or if somehow you have a Gunnar Stockton Heisman ticket for some reason, you should be very scared.
Yeah. I made a point not to judge Gunnar Stockton harshly based on last season because he played incredibly tough pass defenses. Gonna go out on a limb and saying that the awesome logo Superman character logo defense here is not going to be as good as. I'll even pass on Texas and just say not even good as Notre Dame's pass defense last year. How's that? Just to be generous, yeah. All right. Now's the time where Robert and I become the Karens of college football, and we say who we want to talk to. So I want to talk to Andy Staples because on his podcast, this is so bad. He said, and for those who are listening, I'm going to read this, so if you're watching, just humor me here, because this is just gold. He said, in talking about the Arkansas State-Arkansas game, he said, "I know someone who makes power ratings," implying that this guy's a professional bettor, and asked them to send me their sheet for the Arkansas versus Arkansas State game. The projection for this game is Arkansas by 13. That's per the sheets of this alleged pro bettor guy. The line is 23.5. This is where he explains to us that aren't really quick enough to understand that what this supposedly means. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a market inefficiency. I have to ask Andy Staples, there's no way that this guy who makes power ratings actually does anything other than maybe just, I don't know, puts them on the bottom of the birdcage. Come on. As he was going through this and I was listening, I hadn't really considered this game. I thought 27-28 was a fair margin. Just to believe 13, you've been taken, my man. Come on. I don't know anybody who was even halfway serious who would think that 13 would be a legitimate margin for this game. And as shown by the top there, the final score indicated that 56-14.
It's not even close to either of those lines. The 23 yes. line. It's not even though the 23 line was right, his line was off by 10. No, the 23 line was also off, it's just the other way. So, yeah, the thing is, analysts, people who they should focus on not math. I think they should focus on talking to people yes. and analyzing things, and not this. Leave math to math people. look, they can go do things like if they want to go talk about Mike Gundy and all this stuff. Sure, yeah, you guys can talk about that stuff. That's fine.
Yes.
We can do the math. We do math. You guys talk about Mike Gundy and how much you like Mike Gundy or whatever. I don't know. You talk about that for a long time. Whatever. We talk about math. That's fine. That's our thing. We do our thing. You do your thing. That's fine.
Yes. Thank you. Said. All right. This looks familiar, Robert.
Yeah. So we're talking to Joe Cloud again, and I'm going to rope the media into this as well. So this was. I actually just saw this. I was just on YouTube, and they have the shorts feature thing, and this one just got chucked into my feed. And Joel Klatt was saying about how he thinks that, hey, you know what, like, the way he said it too, it was like, if you watch this clip, it's not a short, but if you go to it, it's his week 1 reactions where he talks, like, the thumbnail is about Bryce Underwood from week 1 reactions, and he talks about this, and he says in this clip, which you could find easily if you want to, a lot of Big Ten teams and SEC teams, they're really worried today because it's going to be really tough to keep getting those extra at-large bids. The only way they're going to get into the CFP is if they win their conference, because the ACC could be a 3-bid league. That you could get like a good Miami team and a good Florida State team, and they could get 3 teams in the college football playoff. So like a lot of Big Ten teams, those middle-of-the-pack Big Ten teams, middle-of-the-pack SEC teams, they're worried today after seeing that. And we have to talk about this because I don't, like, people fundamentally just misunderstood what happened at the end of last season. Because the only reason the ACC got 2 teams in at all was because the College Football Playoff Committee accidentally boxed themselves in. They accidentally screwed themselves. And they didn't realize it at the time because they thought SMU was going to be Clemson. And then when they didn't, they're like, oh, shoot, now we're screwed. We have to put 2 teams in. Let me explain what happened, because they ranked SMU and they didn't rank they had Clemson lower. I think Clemson was ranked, but they were ranked like 20th or something, and SMU was ranked like 8th or something. And what happens is, the way the rules are written, which are dumb rules, but fine, whatever, is that the winners of the conferences, the top 4 ranked, actually no, the top 5 ranked conference champions, one of them has to be the G5 one, they automatically get into the CFP. And then everybody else is at larges. And what happened was they set it up perfectly so that if SMU beat Clemson, SMU would get in, Clemson obviously would not get in, and then they'd throw in, there'd be a huge discussion about Bama and Ole Miss and South Carolina, and then they'd probably put in Bama because whatever, and that would be it. But what happened was Clemson beat SMU. And this is why, and again, I don't understand why people are forgetting this very crucial part, but if you watch the selection show, it was on TSN for me, but it's ESPN for you guys. Nick Saban was very angry on the selection show, and he said the way they do it is wrong. They're doing this wrong. The SMU shouldn't have been ranked where they are, because this is very important what he said, because it impacts what they did in the offseason. They did this wrong. They ranked SMU wrong. This never should have been a debate in the first place. These teams don't play the same schedule as SEC teams. They shouldn't have been a debate in the first place. And then what happened is the committee basically said, we can't drop SMU out of the top 12 because they played an extra game that no one else had to play, and they lost that game. It's not fair. We said they were better than the other teams, so we couldn't drop them out of the rankings, so we had to put Clemson in because they won, and then we had to put SMU in there, and then as a result, we had to bump down one of the other teams. And then in response to that, obviously, Nick Saban, the entire SEC, and ESPN got very mad at it, and they've changed their definitions now. They've changed it to keep it to account strength of schedule, because I'm fairly sure it's probably not written somewhere because they're not idiots, but it's basically somewhere, it's an unwritten thing where it says, this will never happen again. If this ever happens again, you make sure to overinflate the team that's going to the conference championship game, so both of them are there, so that you can drop one out and you can put that in. I don't think you're ever going to see a 2-bid Big 12 or a 2-bid ACC ever again. I don't think that's even going to happen again.
Really?
Yeah, okay, fine. If it's an undefeated Miami versus an undefeated FSU, sure, fine. That's fair. I can see that. That's fine. But if it's not, if both of them have one loss, the 2-loss team isn't getting in, because this is how they've done this now with the strength of schedule. You're not going to get – there's no way the ACC or the Big 12 are ever going to be 3-bid leagues. They're never going to be. Those seats, those spots are going to be sucked up by the Big 12 and the Big 10 and the ACC because of the strength of schedule stuff they put in. And the fact that the media doesn't understand this, and Joel Klatt and all these other guys were up there saying, no, don't do the Big 10 seating model, that you earn your way on the field. They don't understand. I don't understand why they don't understand what's happening here. It's abundantly obvious that this is very clearly set up so that there will only ever be one, or in an extreme case, two ACC/Big 12 teams in this. Like, they're never getting the same amount of teams to the other leagues in there. But they're all like, oh no, if you do the seeded model, it's going to kill the sport. I don't understand why they don't understand this. This is their job. This isn't even my job. My job, I do politics every day. I do polling. This isn't even my day job, and I understand this. I'm not even American. I understand this better than them. I don't understand why they don't understand that there's never going to be a 3-bid ACC league or a 3-bid Big 12 league. That's just not how this is ever going to be set up. And they fixed that because of the strength of scheduling metrics. Like, you watch, you're going to see it when the committee starts ranking them next year. Yeah, okay, if two undefeated teams meet in the ACC championship game, fine. But if that doesn't happen, you're not going to see a 2-bid, you're not going to see a 2-bid ACC, let alone a 3-bid ACC. And also, specifically for Joel Klatt, I just wrote out the schedules for all those teams here, because I'm just going to write the top 5 teams that could make the ACC championship game. We'll just limit it to Clemson, FSU, SMU, and Miami, although SMU, that's a bit questionable right now. Georgia Tech just has Clemson. Okay, that's fine. Clemson has Georgia Tech, SMU, and FSU. So I'm assuming that in his case, he just assumed that Clemson was going to win out after losing to LSU, because LSU would probably win the SEC, because of course they would, so that's fine. So his assumption was probably Miami, Florida State, and Clemson was probably his guess. But Clemson plays FSU, SMU plays Clemson and Miami plays FSU and SMU. So basically, there is no chance of two undefeated. There is a chance that like an undefeated Georgia Tech and or Miami/FSU can meet in the conference championship game, and basically that's it. If it's Georgia Tech and Miami/FSU, one of them can be undefeated. Both of them can be undefeated, but if Georgia Tech loses a game, which probably they will at some point, and or if Miami loses a game to Florida, or if Florida State plays Florida. Miami also plays Florida, actually. So if any of them slip up against anybody else, they won't be undefeated. And this is the thing. I don't understand why we're overhyping this. And we're talking, like, it's very clear how this is going to go. It's very clear that at the end of last season, ESPN said, this was a glitch. We're going to fix this from now on. We're going to make sure we get 4 Big Ten and 4 SEC teams in. And I don't understand why people haven't figured this out yet. I'll take your thoughts on that.
First of all, as a huge fan of a team who is optimistically aspiring for that 11 seed, I have zero, if it's possible, less than zero concern about the ACC getting a 3rd bid and stealing that 11 seed from my conference.
Yeah.
I don't know how, my gosh, Clemson looked like crap. SMU lost a tough one.
To be fair, this was before those games. To be fair, that was before those games. But even then, mathematically, it wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have worked anyways.
And at this point, let's just be honest here. In their last 3 games, Clemson has lost by 2 scores to Texas. They lost to LSU. They snuck one out in a home game against Troy. Now, if they ever have a road game against a Sun Belt team, they might actually be in real trouble here, let alone the ACC. Yeah, I don't know. I gotta say, it's a pretty good multi-layered, far too hot, far too early take to get to that. I wouldn't have even thought of it. It's way beyond me because I'm so skeptical. I'll give them credit on that. It's creatively bad.
Yeah, after 1 week of play, it's, Miami won and Florida State won. Therefore, the ACC can get 3 bids. It's no. Like, I don't think people understand how fluky it was they even got 2. Because that was supposed to be for Alabama. That bid was basically marked for Alabama. And the SEC rioted when it wasn't for Alabama. But yet somehow we've memory hold that, and it's, they were always going to get 2 bids. No, that's not what was going to happen. If SMU beat Clemson, it was going to be Alabama, and SMU was the favorite. So I don't understand.
Yeah, you also brought up something that it bears repeating in that it's been repeated in this game again and again. ESPN, after the SEC lost that spot, said, what? They said, this should never happen again.
Yeah, we're going to change. Saban said this should never happen again, and they changed the rules.
Yes. I would point out to you, Robert, that almost the entire structure of this specific game of college, FBS football, is just a series of this will never happen again, right? Going back to, all right, we have these idiots that pretend to know football making these decisions because the computers denied us a really fun USC LSU championship game in 2000 after the 2003 season. And it's just been all of the solutions are never good enough because it's always like, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. The result is a system that's a series of we're not going to do this rather than proactively we will do this. And I will point out that, yeah, America's really good about giving platforms to people like Joel Klatt who are well-spoken and just kind of struggle with the basics of these situations sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, if he had taken 2 seconds and looked at the map, he would have been like, oh, okay, like these teams all play each other. This wouldn't happen anyway. But also, the ESPN said this is not like ESPN basically said this will never happen again. This isn't supposed to happen this way. Nick Saban said this shouldn't happen this way.
Yeah.
And they changed the rules in a very clear way to make sure this never happened again. And yet we're like, no, they're going to get 3 this year, actually. Not just the 2 they had last year. They're going to get 3 because the Big 12 is bad or something. I don't even know. It makes no sense. Like, so many people, and Stu Mandel can get thrown into that too, were so against the Big Ten's proposal. And the part that made me so annoyed this summer was reading, like, insert random Big 12 coach here saying, we want to earn it on the field. And I don't remember if it was, I don't remember who it was. I want to say it was Mike Gundy because it sounds like something Mike Gundy would say. But I think a bunch of them said it too. But it's such a fundamental misunderstanding of what's actually happening that it's like, you're not even, what are you doing? Do you actually believe what you just said? It's such a fundamental misunderstanding of what's actually happening. And it's, again, for some insane reason, we have these rules where if they don't agree to a new format by December 1st, then we are stuck with this format for another year for some insane reason. I bet you any money, because again, remember that stupid thing with, we can't do the 12-team playoff this year because of hotel room bookings or some insane thing. I bet you any money that, like, they won't agree to a new format. They'll keep the 12-team format. There will be one ACC and one Big 12 team, and then immediately the ACC and the Big 12, after the final ranking come out, are going to say, we support the Big 10 proposal now. And it's going to be like, you could have... Yes. And where's that on FanDuel? I want that prop on FanDuel. I want that right now. 10 to 1, 100 to 1, give me that right now. Yeah. Give me that one right now.
Yep. Yeah, really morose humor here. They could just Vegas is hurting so bad they could probably just schedule all the games in Vegas and then have plenty of hotel rooms left over.
Yes.
All right, victory laps. I've got a different kind of victory lap. First of all, here, a listener, we thank you, listener, took great exception with our analysis of Kansas at Missouri. Didn't get too heated. It was just typical social media kind of level, like, yeah, this, that. Clearly, I've said much more disparaging things to people. Although it was 2 people who know much less than I do. Typical social media back and forth, nothing horrible. And I gotta say, I'm bringing this up because afterwards, the guy actually DM'd me and he apologized. And you know what? That's something you never see in social media. The only apology is like when you're caught like just saying a racial epithet to somebody in traffic or something. That's the only kind of apology that you see in social media these days. And he turned out to be right about the game, and we were wrong.
Yeah.
And then he said he's still going to listen. Tiger Bob, shout out to you. Very well done. I don't know, you're a Tiger, you're a Missouri guy. I don't know if this is a good or bad thing, but you're honorary Canadian. That's just a gentlemanly thing to do.
I was about to say, yeah, how Canadian of him, of apologizing on social media. Yeah, that sounds like a Canadian thing to do. As a Canadian, I can say that. But no, yeah, not the most heated argument, but yeah, no, a disagreement. I will say the game was actually pretty close, though. I'm assuming he was a Missouri fan. He was probably not the most happy after the first quarter. But no, yeah, it was a good game. I was very impressed with Kansas, but no, Missouri, I think they were the better team. They just were able to, they just kept being able to get it on the ground. They just kept 5-6 yards gains, and they put it away from that. And it was close. Kansas kept it very close, but then Missouri was able to put it away with a big breakaway touchdown near the end to not just to win, but to cover the spread too, because we're up, I think, only up 2, and then they got that to cover the spread. But no, good game, and shout out to our listeners. Yeah, go ahead, interact with us on Twitter. If you think we're wrong, call us out. We're not gonna shout racial epithets at you. That's fine. Yeah, no. we like hearing from you guys. Yeah,
I'm definitely not above it. Yeah, and I got to say, everybody that has reached out to me has been awesome. So, including especially that guy. All right. Not awesome communication, but I'm very proud of myself. One of my friends, Q-Dog, actually reached out to me. He said, hey, who you got this weekend? And I said, look, I listed who I'm on. I said, I'm just paraphrasing here, obviously. I'm not a fan of Oregon, but at least I like to pull it for them for 30 minutes. I love that first half play. That totally overlooked. I thought it was like safe because they'd easily have it covered, and who knows what's going to happen later. And we'll get into that in a bit here. But I like that angle. If I'm going for a team that I'm not really a fan of, I'm just maybe this first half is the way there, just so I can get through it real quick.
Yeah. I wasn't watching that game. So does the Big Ten Network, was that on the Big Ten Network? I think it was, right? Yes. But for some reason there's two Big Ten Network games. Is there like a Big Ten Network
they do that.
1 and 2?
It gets tricky because there's so many Big Ten games in this part of before you get to conference.
Yeah, because I don't think we only get one Big Ten Network in Canada. We don't get the second one, or is it regional locked? I have no idea.
I like you being coy here, like you don't know a certain guy overseas that can just hook you up.
Yeah, I know. It's only someone on YouTube. But no, I was watching. This was on the same time as the Missouri-Kansas game, I believe, if I remember correctly. And that was far more interesting than watching Oregon. I was watching the scoreboard, though, and I think Oregon scored a touchdown with 2 minutes in the game. I'm like, oh, okay, we won. Oh, yeah, we won. It's over. Yeah. It's okay, cool. It's done now. And it just kept getting worse and worse. And I'm like, are they going to score a touchdown? And the answer was no. They did not score a touchdown. Yeah. It was bad. Yeah, that was. But like literally, sometimes there's been some games when like you see the first bit and you're like, oh, okay, it's done. We won.
It's on schedule. Yep.
Yep.
All right. My final victory lap. Boy, they made it close, but my Bears of Missouri State, they beat Marshall. This one looked seriously in doubt. Down by 10 at half.
Still covering the spread though.
Yes, they were 8-point dogs. As a reminder, I picked this as my upset coming out of Conference USA. And you know what? Missouri State didn't look good against USC, but I like that they stuck with their identity. I remember the reason I thought that they would win this and just other games is that they have an identity. 12-point yards per pass here. 76% win probability. I know two teams named Clemson and North Carolina that did not do as well in such post-game win expectancies. So very proud of myself. Missouri State, I've got them coming up in another one later this season. We'll get into that when we're doing our Week 3 preview. But and like I said, you have an identity. That's going to go a long ways in Conference USA when you're playing like a rebuilding team like Marshall.
There was, I'm not sure if you remember it, but there was a meme online during the early days of the first Trump presidency when Van Jones on CNN said this was the day Trump became president, when he launched ballistic missiles into Syria. And he's like, it was like 3 months later, this is the day finally Trump became president. This is the day Missouri State became an FBS team. So Kennesaw State, they haven't made the jump yet, but Missouri State they have after they beat Marshall. Here's the thing. If you're Marshall, this is barely an FBS team. If you lost to them as 10-point favorites at home, what are you doing? It's really bad there. It is really bad. What win total do we have? 5.5?
5.5, yeah.
Do they get to 2 wins? I don't even know. Like
this is one I think I had as a coin flip when I was just breaking them down.
Could call them a coin flip, but what? Like, they're not even get close to that. They're not even get close to that number.
Yeah. All right. Along the same lines, I'm glad you brought this up because I almost wanted to make this my second I want to talk to, but bring this up. I think you have a good idea where you're going with this. This is Liberty at Jacksonville State.
Yeah. So this was insane. Why was Liberty the favorite in Conference USA? Like, why? What, just because they won it a couple years ago? Is that it?
Are you going to pretend like you didn't put them in the conference championship game like me? Come on.
Did I actually?
Yeah.
I did.
You wanted to go Missouri State, and I had to point out that they're not eligible. But
that's right.
I got you excited about the Bears there.
That's right. No, but we bet. I picked to win I had them in the conference game, but I had Western Kentucky as the conference championships, and I got them. I kept betting them at 3-1, and that looks really good right now.
Yeah.
But I think we put Liberty in the conference championship game because we weren't particularly high on them, but like we just worked down on the rest of Conference USA just generally. But like they were the favorite. They should not have been the favorites to win the conference at all. They clearly aren't now for losing 10 points to Jacksonville State, a team that got completely just crushed after the last year. Again, now Jacksonville State, maybe they're actually half decent. They actually almost upset UCF, and then they took down Liberty. And again, I'll just point out here, the reason the stats page is here is because we always say, you got to get a better quarterback than Gavin Wimsatt. And Gavin Wimsatt won this game. And in terms of Gavin Wimsatt, he was just also there because he only went 6 for 12 for 52 yards. And they like, so imagine this is the game plan, right? You're a quarterback in an FBS school, and they're like, what's the game plan? They're like, okay, you're going to get the ball and immediately hand it off 50 times in this game. And you're only going to throw it 12 times.
He did keep it 10, in fairness to him.
Okay, he did run it a couple times. But, like, how is it, like, that's rough. If it's just, okay, take the ball and immediately hand it off to generally Cam Cook, right? Like, it's pretty, and he ran for 200 yards. It worked. That was a good game plan. But, man, what Liberty is not particularly good. I don't think Jacksonville State is that good. I'm still out on UCF. No. I can't wait for UCF. Oh, God, UCF versus Bill Belichick. Scott Frost versus Bill Belichick in a couple weeks. That's going to be, I don't even know what that is now. Do you have to put Scott Frost in that game?
I don't even want to. I don't want to think about that before I have to.
Yeah. Can you bet both teams to lose somehow?
I'd say yeah, that's
a draw.
Yeah, you know what that is? That is, as I referred this when I was going through my process for the conference previews, that is definitely a double plus money game. Yeah. I would need points to take either side in that one. Absolutely. Yeah. There's no way I'd give points on either team.
Yeah. That's right, yeah. It's like one team's plus 7.5, you're like, this line is wrong. And then it flips the other way, 7.5, this line is wrong. But no, shout out to Jacksonville State, though. This is a call out for us being right on Liberty not being that great. But yeah, shout out to them, right? This was not expected at all. They actually have held their team together relatively well comparatively, compared to where they should be. Shout out to them. They've done a really good job so far this year.
Yeah, the reason I'm glad you brought this up, because I wanted to... Here's my thought process. If there's something I don't know, number one, can I figure it out myself by looking in the numbers? And I'm specifically to what on earth happened with Jacksonville State running the ball. Because, all right, guess what? You stopped Gavin Wimsatt from beating you through the air. That's called showing up and just not pooping your pants. I couldn't figure that out just in the numbers. Number one. Number two is, can I figure it out with Robert in the podcast? And no, not this one. Number three, all right, this is where we throw something at Duck because he knows more than us. I don't think he can answer this one. I think this goes to four. I need to ask actually Jamie Caldwell. It's like, what on earth? How does this happen? Because the other reason that we both had Liberty in the title game is because they have way more resources and way more talent than the rest of the conference. And I don't know how this happens. How do you just give this up to any kind of Conference USA team, number one? Number two, rebuilding. These guys lost everything from last year. Everything. Number three, again, Robert, not to belabor the point, but it's not like this guy's going to beat you through the air. There's only one way that they can beat you, and they did it.
I'm realizing that now, yeah. He threw 12 passes. What, were you that scared? We're like, no, we only have 4 guys in the box. We got to watch the air. He's thrown for tens of yards.
That's exactly
in the air. Like, we gotta, this guy, he's thrown 0 passing touchdown. He's thrown for 25 yards in 6 attempts. Gotta watch that air. Gotta watch it. Gotta watch that deep ball. Like, just everyone in the box. What are you doing? I don't know. Throw a 12th guy in the box. Just try something. There was one way they could beat them, and they beat them that way. And I'm like, okay. And not even, if this was somehow like a last second field goal, they won by 10. How did they win by 10? How?
Yeah. I don't know. Jamie Chadwell. Really well done, he said sarcastically. All right. Apparently, you didn't get enough of Joel Klatt. Anything more on Mr. Klatt here?
No, I think we covered it enough. But again, this was it's the same kind of, we double stuffed it there early. But yeah, I still don't understand why, in general, the media doesn't understand what happened last year and why it's never going to happen again. They've basically come just shy of saying this is never going to happen again. They have not explicitly said this is never going to happen again, but they've done literally everything to make this not happen again. And we're going to go through another media cycle after the conference championship games where everybody's going to be like, wow, we're so shocked the ACC got only one bid. Be like, you knew this was they designed it this way. This was designed this way. I don't understand. Like,
no.
Whatever. This is the way it's designed. And everybody's going to say the Big Ten was right. And it's so funny because everybody spent all summer demonizing the Big 12. Like, how dare they destroy, if they do this seeded thing, it's going to destroy the sport. But the problem is that it's like the pride of the ACC and the Big 12 to refuse to accept that they're not the SEC and the Big 10 because they are so afraid that if they accept less spots, it means that they're an inferior league. Guess what? You are like, this is the thing. To improve, you have to accept what the truth is, and you are not you're the Big 12. You're trying to sell ads on your field and stuff. Like, you're not the Big 10. You're not the SEC. Like, you're signing a deal with wrestling? I think was the Big 12 did something like that. Something insane. Where it's just like, what are you trying to do? Like, you don't have the same financial resources as the Big 10. You don't have the same financial resources as the SEC. Teams left you to join those conferences. So, what, you're not equal to them? Why are you trying, by pretending that you're somehow equal to them, that basically in any objective analysis, someone's going to say, yeah, the Big 12 champion or the Big 12 number 2 is just as good as the SEC number 2. That's not how this is going to work. That's not how this is going to work. And once they actually accept that and move on, they're still going to be locked in this horrible position where they're still trying to oh no, we're just as good. But then they get screwed over by the committee, and they're going to be like, oh, the committee. No, you did this. You made this decision yourself. You gave them the power to screw you, and they did.
Yeah, I also read, before we move on here, or heard that the Big 12 is maybe even looking to selling naming rights for the conference. Like, they might be like the Ozempic Big 12. Have you heard of this at all?
That sounds familiar. But again, the SEC is not doing that.
No.
The SEC isn't doing that. I think I remember reading that, and I remember saying, okay, if someone actually sponsors it, can they actually name the conference correctly for the number of teams in it? Could be like, oh, the Ozempic Big 18, or is it 16? I think it's 16 now. Can we actually name if we're going to rename the conference, can we name it correctly? That's just my OCD kicking in.
This is a strategy thing. Start a company called Plus 4, and then you're going to call it the Big 12 Plus 4.
Plus 4, there you go. That's how you do it. Yes. There you go. And then you just hope there's no more conference realignment. And then you're like, damn it, we have to be plus 8 now.
Yep. Exactly. All right. Jimbo Awards. I'm going to say this. I'm going to be skeptical. I need a little more proven to me from Dan Lanning than the average football fan. Not saying he's not good, but I think others are they have him farther up their list than I have him on mine. I bring this up because Mike Gundy, if you missed it, he had a really dumb quote where he basically said Oregon is paying a lot of money for their team. Not surprising. Afterwards, there's a great quote from Lanning here where Lanning says, it never requires extra motivation for an opportunity to go out and kick ass, but it never hurts when somebody pours gasoline on the fire. Mike Gundy might want to just read. I don't know if he'd be able to handle the whole book, maybe just like the Cliff's Notes or the brochure about Sun Tzu, Art of War. Because, you know what? My questions about Dan Lanning do not involve this. Basically, you go in and you're taking shots at the hornet's nest here, and you're going to say, let's see if anything happens. You went right into this guy's sweet spot, Gundy. This was just dumb beyond belief. And I got to point out, Robert, the Ducks did not even score in the fourth period. They could have had 100 probably if they really wanted to.
Yeah, I think they actually just took their other random quarterbacks and just said, here, go have some fun. I think that's what they just did in the fourth. This is literally within a few minutes of this game, as I mentioned before, it was literally just, we had the Oregon minus 28 or 28 and a half, I think. And again, when you have a spread that big, very rarely are you just, okay, yep, good start, got 7 points. It's just literally after that first one, I'm like, we won. It's over. It's done. And very rarely does that happen. Normally, it's okay, you got to make sure, because you got to make sure you get over 28, you got to get sure the backdoor cover. But in the first, I'm like, we know it's over. It's done. We won. They're going to cover the minus 28 and a half. It's done. And this is the thing. And Mike, I don't know what you're supposed to do if you're Mike Gundy here, right? I mean, you're at Oklahoma State.
I have an idea. Don't talk a bunch of crap like that before the game, but that's just me, okay?
Why is Oklahoma State playing Oregon, actually? This is probably... no. I guess they thought this would be a rivalry game, but Oklahoma State has not been good for several years. They somehow got into the Big 12 championship game against Texas. Somehow, I think it revolved around a lot of bad things happening, specifically upsetting Oklahoma that year. That was the final year they were in Oklahoma and Texas were in the Big 12. Yeah, obviously don't go poking Oregon, a team that is way better than you. And
with a coach that lives for that kind of stuff.
Of course. And I think now people are and it's funny, right? Because last week I said, hey guys, Oregon's a little scary. And now people are I'm like, hey guys, Oregon's really scary. Okay. We just covered this last week. But no, I don't know what you do if you're Oklahoma State and Mike Gundy. Is Mike Gundy the problem? Is it just Oklahoma State doesn't have enough resources? I think it's Mike Gundy because even before the NIL era, they were struggling. Like they had a lot of rough teams that year. I remember there was that one year, the one time that they were somehow ranked like top 10 or something, and then they were like 6-0, and then they lost the last 6 games. And that sounds familiar because I remember we were like, this is insane. They're nowhere near this good. And then they just lost the next six. They didn't win a single game after that. Like, they have not been good for a while. Like, people are just pulling into this now, but it's been a while. And Oklahoma State is not a good team. And every year they try to hype them up. That's why I think at one point in the preseason I joked, I'm like, oh, I'm surprised Oklahoma State isn't ranked right now because they massively overhyped this team always. They're like, I remember when Ollie Gordon was like, oh, he's going to be the next like Heisman frontrunner or something. It's just like, no, like they always overhype this team. They always overhype Mike Gundy. I just don't think he's that good of a coach. Maybe the game's passed him by a little bit. Maybe it's adjustment to a new era. I don't know. But he's not the way he was before. Oklahoma State used to be this team that was like always okay, but never able to completely take down. Like they were able to upset Oklahoma a couple times, and maybe they could sneak into the odd conference game, but they were never a juggernaut. And now we're just to a point where now they're not even competitive anymore. Now they don't get the odd upset. Now they're just a bottom dweller now, and that's where they are. And I think if this is where Oklahoma State wants to be, that's fine. I get it because they're not the biggest market, but they need to figure out what they're trying to do here. And if that means Mike Gundy has to go, Mike Gundy has to go. Because it's just, okay, yeah. One, obviously poking Oregon like this was a bad idea, 100%. But also, 69-3, like 69, and they put backups in the fourth. What are you doing here? You could put up more. Montana State put up more points than this. What are we doing here, guys? An FCS team did better against Oregon than you guys did. And okay, yeah, Oregon scored more points, okay. But like Oregon scored more points against you, but not that many more. About another score or so. So like you're telling me that we can't, you're telling me we just couldn't, you couldn't get an extra touchdown? Like, it would have mattered for the spread, but you would have felt better if you had a touchdown or two in here. I don't know. I think, Mike, yeah, this is clearly on Gundy, and I just don't think he's a good coach anymore. And we're going to fade him accordingly on that.
Yeah, I'll push back a little or just point out that, like, I think it was 2010 season that they were number 3 in the country. It was when they played Stanford in a bowl game. I think they were number 3, but that has 0 effect on what in the field today. That was a couple of eras ago. I think that he is probably one of the casualties of the whole player empowerment kind of trajectory of the game. And they're definitely on the wrong side of NIL just in terms of being a state school and not a really rich state. And Stillwater is, I don't know, probably not the easiest place to recruit to. I'll just say that.
Yeah, a victim of Oklahoma's success. When you get in the NIL era, all those resources getting pumped into Oklahoma and not you.
Yeah.
You can count some of the casualties of this kind of era, right? Gundy is definitely one. Dabo Sweeney is one. It just hasn't been announced yet, but he is one. Arguably Nick Saban. Questionable as to what specifically it was, whether or not he just saw the writing on the wall and said, I don't want to do this anymore, or if he was just like, actually just wanted to retire. I think it was more ESPN said, hey, do you want to just be Lee Corso now? Because Lee Corso is... Yeah, he was getting older, so they just said, do you want to be Lee Corso? And he said, sure. I don't know specifically what happened there. But those are some of the casualties for sure on the NIL era. And there's going to be a few more maybe. But again, some of these long-running coaches that were there forever, they're gone now because of this. And I think Mike Gundy's one of the last ones on that list to fall.
Yep, that's sad. All right, your Jimbo Award. You're going into the UFO here.
Yeah, so... This is the thing, the one meme online, it's from Phineas and Ferb. It's like if I had a nickel every time this really obscure thing happened, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot of money, but it's weird that it happened twice. It's like this, if I had a nickel for every time Florida did something really stupid on a drive where their opponent needed to drive down the field to score a field goal, I'd have 2 nickels, which, actually, sorry, let me rephrase that. If I had a nickel every time Florida did an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty that I'd never seen before, in a drive in the fourth quarter in which they needed to stop an opponent from driving down the field to kick a game-winning field goal, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot of money. But it's very weird that this happened twice. And, I had never seen it on unsportsmanlike conduct before where someone threw a shoe. Never seen that before. That was new to me. Didn't know you could even do that. I guess you mechanically can throw a shoe. I just thought that any normal human being would just assume not to do that because they would realize
Oh.
that was a bad idea. But
You are
apparently,
Canadian, though. Come on.
yes, that's right. I'm Canadian. Americans would think differently of that, of course. They're pro shoe throwing. Okay, so that one was new, and then they lost that game to LSU, and that actually cost them a chance in the playoff too, because that was the Kyle Trask era, in which they have 3 first-round draft picks. And then, okay, that's fine, I guess. It's a piece of history from 2020, the COVID season, so fine, we're going to move on. But now this year, in a very similar situation where they had to stop USF from going down the field and scoring a go-ahead field goal, you got number 9, as you can 99 there. He's doing some extracurricular activities, spitting with the UFO there onto the USF player. And it's, first of all, again, this weekend there was also 2 unsportsmanlike conduct penalties for spitting, one in an NFL game, one in this game. And again, I would have 2 nickels if we got one for every one of those. And that's weird to happen twice at the same weekend. What is wrong with this program? Like, is this some sort of weird curse that we don't understand? Is this some sort of, why is this happened? Is this some sort of weird disciplinary issue? USC doesn't have this. Oregon doesn't have this. Maybe every SEC school has their weird things. Georgia's like #1 rival is DUIs. Ours is like unsportsmanlike conduct in fourth quarter drives. I don't understand what it is. Like, how do you reinvent new ways to have an unsportsmanlike conduct? What's next? I want to see the next iteration of this. What's the next one? I'm very curious. How do you, like, I'm not sure if this goes specifically to Billy Napier. He definitely should get one for whatever happened there on Saturday, or just the program, maybe the state of Florida. I don't know. But how is this possible? I don't understand how this keeps happening. This should not be happening. I don't know. I'm at a loss. I don't understand how this specific program in this specific situation keeps doing this. I don't understand.
This has been covered a lot elsewhere, so here's my unique thought on this. I think if you combine the two, I don't think it's a penalty. I think if Marco Wilson grabbed the shoe, honestly, I think if he just spit in the shoe and gave it back to the guy, I don't think that's a penalty. And I think you're getting more out of it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I guess that wouldn't technically be a penalty. You could say, I accidentally spit in his shoe.
You do it discreetly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
You have to know, like, it's the fourth quarter. You know what's on the score. You know that all they need is a field goal to win the game. And the thing is, they did this, and then they got a 15-yard penalty, and then Byron Brown broke off a 40-yard run, and then I think he got another something else, and he got a 25-yard run, and then another 20-yard pass, and then they just slowly ground down the clock. Again, I've got nothing. I don't understand why this keeps happening with this specific program. In games at home, too. These are both at home, too. Yeah. I don't understand. Maybe this program has some sort of weird curse that science hasn't figured out yet. I don't know, man. It's very weird. I don't understand why this happens.
Maybe the Tom Petty sing-along just brings out the worst in certain personalities. I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah. All right. Finally, note of future reference, just a few kind of odds and ends here. As much as we slapped around Liberty, they did somehow have a 70% post-game win probability at Jacksonville State. Another question for Jamie Chadwell. North Texas was in a life and death situation at Western Michigan. We did not have island time. I love North Texas, so did not have to make a fool of myself. Game went to overtime. Just one of those weird games. We saw this kind of with Kennesaw last season in the other way. North Texas, 78% post-game win probability, and they went to overtime. And finally, Louisiana. Just to refresh everybody's memory, I've been a fan here because Michael DeSarmo has proven himself to be plug and play with almost any quarterback. Until this season, a -24 Apex versus Rice, a 24 Apex versus McNeese FCS, and my gosh, look out, next there at Missouri. We will talk about that in the Week 3 preview. And with that, Robert, we will talk about the Week 3 preview after other things. So I will talk to you then, my friend. All those listening, thank you so much. We will talk to you and see you in the preview.